I work at Bondi Beach's lifeguard tower, and last summer an American family arrived with 3 suitcases of beach gear. The dad planted an enormous tent, set up folding chairs, unrolled artificial turf, and erected a portable misting fan. He looked around at everyone on towels and asked where the beach rental stations were. I pointed at the sand and said, "You just pick a spot." He stared at me like I'd spoken Klingon. "But where do I reserve seating? What about the bathrooms? Where's the concession stand?" I explained everything was free: the beach, the showers, the space. He refused to believe it. He walked to the surf club demanding to check in. When they said there was no check-in, he accused us of running a socialist beach scam and threatened to report us to the Australian Tourism Bureau. He spent 20 minutes photographing random people to prove the beach was overcrowded without a reservation system. His wife asked if sharks respected the swimming zones. I said the flags mark safe areas. She wanted to know who enforces it with the sharks. One bloke asked why our ambulances don't charge fees. Another wanted a receipt for using public showers. A third tried paying our volunteer surf lifesavers. A woman demanded to know our beach capacity limits and threatened to call the fire marshal when I said we don't have one. Australian beaches break American brains in ways I never imagined. What I thought would be simple questions turned into full investigations about why we operate beaches without proper business models. A Californian woman asked me why Australians do beaches wrong. She'd been in Sydney 3 days and had compiled a list of complaints. First, no lifeguard stations every 100 meters. Second, no designated family zones separated from adult zones. Third, where are the beach badges? I asked what she meant. In New Jersey, she explained, you buy daily badges proving you paid to access the beach. Without them, beach police remove you. I told her Australian beaches are public and free. She said that was impossible because maintenance costs money. When I explained taxes cover it, she called it communist beach policy and said she preferred freedom beaches where people pay for what they use. I asked if she enjoyed paying to see the ocean. She said, "At least it's organized." She wanted to know why we don't have chair rental companies every 50 feet. I said people bring their own. That's so much work. What if you forget your chair? I suggested sitting on the sand. Her face twisted like I'd recommended eating dirt. She asked where to file complaints about insufficient beach infrastructure. I pointed at the ocean and said, "Try the water." She didn't laugh. She actually pulled out her phone and started searching for Australian beach complaint hotlines. A Texan father pulled me aside and asked who owned Manly Beach. I said the public. But who actually owns it? The government, technically, but everyone has access. He looked disturbed. So anyone can just show up? Yes, that's how beaches work. Without membership? Correct. That doesn't seem secure. What if the wrong people come? I asked what he meant. He backtracked quickly but kept insisting premium beaches in Texas have HOA fees and background checks. He wanted to know if Australia had private beach developments for people who value exclusivity. I explained our beaches are protected by law to remain public. He called it anti-business and said he'd never invest in Australian real estate because you can't monetize the coastline. He left a TripAdvisor review saying Australian beaches are financially unsustainable without a paywall system and lack proper vetting procedures. He gave Manly Beach 2 stars because too accessible. His review included a 5-paragraph essay about how privatization would improve our beaches through competitive market forces. An American teenager asked why the water was cold. I said it's the Pacific Ocean in autumn. She insisted it should be heated. Heated, I repeated. Like a pool. I explained oceans don't have thermostats. She said California beaches have warmer water because they use geothermal technology to regulate ocean temperature. I told her that's absolutely not true. She pulled out her phone and searched for proof, got frustrated when Google didn't support her claim, then decided I was lying. Maybe Australia just has old oceans that haven't been updated. I asked what an updated ocean looks like. You know, with better temperature control and wave machines for consistency. I pointed at the natural waves rolling in. Those are real waves. She looked disappointed. They're so random, though. In California, the waves come in patterns. I told her that's still random. No, they're engineered. She left convinced Australian beaches are unregulated and dangerous because our oceans are too natural. She posted a TikTok warning Americans that Australian beaches are basically wilderness. A Chicago couple asked if our jellyfish warning signs were just for decoration. I said no, there are actually jellyfish. The husband laughed and said, "But seriously, what are they really for? Lawsuit protection?" I repeated, "Actual jellyfish, venomous ones, potentially dangerous." His wife said, "We have jellyfish in America and nobody makes this big a deal." I explained Australian jellyfish species include box jellyfish and bluebottles, which cause severe stings. She waved me off. Jellyfish are like 95% water. They can't hurt you. I showed her photos of sting welt. She said they were photoshopped for tourism fear tactics. An hour later, she got stung by a bluebottle. She screamed that she was dying and demanded to know why we allowed deadly animals on public beaches. I applied vinegar and said I'd warned her. "You said jellyfish. You didn't say they were actually dangerous." Her husband threatened to sue the beach for negligent wildlife management and insisted America would have removed the jellyfish by now. I asked how. "Nets or chemicals or something. You just let them swim around." "Yes, because it's the ocean. They're supposed to be here." He muttered something about third world beach safety standards. He spent 30 minutes on his phone trying to find a lawyer who handles international beach injury cases. A Florida man saw a blue-ringed octopus in a tide pool and picked it up. I sprinted over yelling to drop it. He held it up, grinning, saying, "Look at this cool octopus." I shouted that it's one of the world's most venomous creatures and its bite can kill within minutes. He laughed. "Octopuses don't bite. I explained this one absolutely does and carries enough venom to kill 26 adults." He looked skeptical, set it down carefully, then accused me of exaggerating for tips. I said I'm a volunteer and showed him articles about blue-ringed octopus fatalities. He skimmed one and said, "These articles are probably written by the Australian Tourism Board to make beaches seem adventurous." When I asked why we'd advertise deadly animals, he said, "To seem tough." He posted on Instagram about how Australians make up scary animal stories to mess with tourists, and called the blue-ringed octopus a regular octopus with food dye. His comments filled with other Americans agreeing that Australians exaggerate wildlife danger. One commenter said, "Australians have an inferiority complex, so they pretend their animals are scary." Another claimed blue-ringed octopuses are trained by lifeguards to scare tourists away from the good spots. A New York woman asked why we have shark net. I explained they reduce shark encounters in swimming areas. She demanded to know why we don't just kill all the sharks. I said sharks are protected and essential to ocean ecosystems. She said America solved the shark problem decades ago by relocating them to deeper water where they belong. I told her that's not a thing anyone did. Yes, it is. There's a government program. I asked which program. She couldn't name it but insisted she'd read about it somewhere. When I said sharks naturally inhabit these waters, she said, then the beach should be built somewhere without sharks. I gestured at the Pacific Ocean surrounding an island continent and asked where she proposed building beaches without ocean predators. She said, inland. Like a lake beach but with salt water. I asked how we'd create that. Engineering. Americans do it all the time. She left convinced Australians are too lazy to properly develop safe beaches and wrote a blog post about how Australian beaches are stuck in the past because we refuse to adopt American shark management techniques. Her blog detailed an imaginary system where sharks are trained to stay in designated deep water zones through positive reinforcement. A Boston family arrived and asked about our beach ambulance subscription service. I said we don't have one. So if someone gets hurt, how do they get help? We call emergency services. They're free. The mother looked panicked. Free? How is that possible? Taxes, I explained. But what if you need a helicopter? Still free. She didn't believe me and spent 15 minutes calling Australian emergency numbers to verify. When she confirmed it was true, she became angry. That's not fair. We pay thousands for beach safety insurance in Massachusetts. I suggested that's a choice. No, it's mandatory if you want beach access. I told her that's definitely not standard in America. She insisted it was and refused to accept that she might have been scammed by a fake insurance company. The wildest moment came when a Los Angeles family arrived with pool floaties, beach umbrellas, a portable grill, and a cooler full of meat. The dad started assembling the grill on the sand. I walked over and said fires aren't allowed on the beach. He looked confused. It's a grill, not a fire. I explained grills produce fire and are prohibited. But we're cooking lunch. Where else would we cook? I suggested restaurants or designated picnic areas with barbecue facilities. He said, we didn't come to Australia to eat at restaurants. We came for the authentic beach experience. I told him the authentic experience doesn't include grilling. He insisted Americans grill at beaches, all the time, and this was a cultural misunderstanding. His wife interrupted to ask if the ocean had bathroom zones, because she couldn't find toilets in the water. I pointed at the actual bathroom building 50 meters away. She said, I meant in the water for kids. I said no. So kids just go in the ocean? Some do, I admitted. That's disgusting. America has floating bathrooms in designated swim areas. I told her that's not true. Yes, it is. I've seen them. She doubled down, describing imaginary floating toilet structures she definitely remembers from Florida beaches. Her husband gave up on the grill argument but left a review saying Bondi Beach is primitive and behind American standards because we don't allow cooking and lack aquatic bathroom facilities. He added that our beach is living in the 1800s and needs serious infrastructure investment to compete globally. I've realized Americans don't struggle with Australian beaches because they're difficult. They struggle because our beaches are simple. No fees, no reservations, no privatization, no membership. Just ocean, sand, and public access. The simplicity breaks their brains because they're conditioned to expect infrastructure, monetization, and control over nature. When they find none of that, they assume we're doing it wrong. They can't comprehend that a beach can function without capitalism attached to every grain of sand. We're not doing it wrong. We're just doing it like beaches have been done for thousands of years, freely. before someone figured out you could charge people to look at water. If you've witnessed Americans completely misunderstanding beaches in your country, I need to hear these stories. Mountains, lakes, rivers, anywhere nature exists without a price tag.